I'm guessing that being Christian, you conducted your side of this debate with a certain level of civility. How did the other side of the debate respond to you at the time?
Yeah, it was very difficult, Fred. We were called bigots, we were called homophobes, and they didn't even give us any credit for the fact that we'd supported the removal of all discrimination in Commonwealth law. Some 80 or so laws were changed with our support to take away discrimination against same-sex couples, but they wanted that word marriage. And so we were subject to all sorts of vile abuse. We had venues that we were seeking to hire, subject to attack. My office was firebombed a few days before Christmas in 2016, and the Australian Federal Police said nothing to see here. It was covered up. It was later found out to be a same-sex marriage activist committed the bombing. And our names, my name as a director of Australian Christian Lobby and my fellow directors were placed on the internet by a same-sex marriage activist after the bombing, which certainly put us and our families in danger. So the tactics used were terrible. It was a very difficult period, but we felt it was important to stand up for our freedoms during this campaign.
So let's fast forward to the year 2020. 2 drag queens appear at the Brisbane City Library to perform for children. What happened next?
Yeah, I was living in Brisbane at the time, and I noticed this protest appeared online. So a group of student activists led by a very brave young LNP member by the name of Wilson Gavin. I recognised one of the other people in the protest, and they were just peacefully chanting, "Drag queens are not for kids." And I thought, gee, these kids, these young people, these young student protesters are very brave, because obviously gender fluid drag queens and people who promote the sex trade shouldn't be presented before children in a public library. And sadly, Wilson Gavin was subject to a vicious backlash on social media, and sadly took his life a day or two later. So I decided to write a blog about this. The essence of the blog was that these drag queens were not for kids, they were dangerous role models for children. And a few months later, I received a letter from the Queensland Human Rights Commission compelling me to go to mediation with the drag queens.
Okay, we'll get back to the Human Rights Commission in a minute, but did the tragic death of Wilson Gavin have any effect on the debate? Did it lower the heat of the confrontation at all?
Well, I think it probably did initially, Fred, but it didn't stop the desire to then go after me for writing my blog. And I wanted to expose in the blog what I'd found out about the 2 drag queens that were placed in front of very little children. One was a woman presenting as a man who on her social media page was crowdfunding to have a double mastectomy so she could present as a man. The other was parading his Adult Entertainment X Award. So these are the sort of role models that Brisbane City Council allowed to be placed in front of children. And I just felt that the public needed to know. I had a blog which had a bit of a following, so I wrote this up, and that got me into trouble with the law.